Welcome back, students. Let's resume. Step 1 just ended, and we ended up with this system of linear equations, which we will copy and paste for next step. Step 2. Okay, let's work out the system of these two linear equations. Okay, what is y1? y1 is cosine of t squared. So that one goes over here. And what is y2? That is sine of t squared. So that one comes right over there. And then let me move this u2 prime. Why am I losing colors here? Oh, that's odd. And then u1 prime. Okay, let's move it here. How about this one? Okay, this one needs a little bit more work. u1 prime, that's good, but what is y1 prime? This is y1, so I have to calculate its derivative. What is derivative of cosine? It is negative sine, isn't it? Negative sine of t squared. And then by the chain rule, we have to multiply the derivative of the inside. What is derivative of t squared? Is 2t. And times u1 prime. And okay, that part is done. And let's work this one. What is y2 prime here? Derivative of sine is cosine. So this has to be cosine of t squared. And by the derivative, by the chain rule, we have to multiply the derivative of the inside. It is 2t. And we end up with this system of linear equation, this and that one. By the way, previously we got these in general, and then by plugging these in and taking the derivative, we got these two. Okay, we don't need this previous anymore. Okay, let's solve this system of linear equations. Previously, we used computer algebra system, but this time, let's take every step. Okay, which one shall I get rid of? Let's get rid of u1s first. We have two opposite signs, so that looks a bit easier to remove. So let's set these two coefficients the same. How do I do that? Multiply by this thing, 2t sine of t squared, here, and this thing, cosine of t squared, over there. And that's what we're going to get. Okay, I don't want black anymore, so I don't want green anymore, so let's go back to my usual color. Okay, multiply cosine t squared, multiply cosine t squared, multiply cosine t squared. Why do I get now look at the middle term, cosine, another cosine, so this is equivalent to just cosine squared. Oh, that's odd. Why am I getting Oh, this is really annoying. Let me rewrite everything. 2t sine of t squared cosine of t squared u1 prime plus 2t cosine of squared t squared u2 prime is equal to 4t to the fourth power cosine of t squared. Mathematica is a great software, but its color functions have something to be desired, as a matter of fact. Okay, let's set this part and that part the same. How do I do that? Multiply by negative 2t sine squared to both this one and that one, and also to 0. And if I do that, this is what I'm gonna get. Negative 2t sine of t squared times cosine of t squared, which was there before, times u1 prime plus negative 2t. As a matter of fact, why am I doing negative? I'm going to add those up. So positive 2t sine of t squared and sine of t squared, which was there before, is equals to u2 prime is equal to 0. If I multiply by 2t sine of t squared to each term, this one and that one, that's what you're gonna get. Why am I have cosine here? This should be sine. This should be y2. Okay, this is sine squared. And then all we have to do now is add up these two and then remove this part, common part. If I do that, what do you get? This plus that? Okay, I can do that. 2t is common, and cosine of t squared, as a matter of fact, not just cosine, cosine squared, plus sine squared of t squared times u2 prime is equal to this one. Okay, what do you get? Cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1, so this is what we get. Just 1. Okay, let's take just one more step. This thing is 1, so 2t times u2 prime is equal to 4t to the fourth power. And then let's divide this by 2. So we get just 2. Divide by t, and I'm gonna get the third power here. And from here, what do I get? u2 is nothing more than antiderivative of this one. Oops. Oh, it's too late, excuse me. And then here, I have to get these back. Sorry about that. Okay, all right. So we can find out what u2 is by calculating this rather complicated integral. How about u1? Well, it's gonna be similar. from here and there, if you just remove this part, then you're going to get what you want. So multiply both by here sine t squared, here 2t cosine squared, 2t cosine of t squared. So minus 2t sine squared of t squared u1 prime plus 2t cosine t squared sine t squared u2 prime is equal to 4t, and then sine t squared. That's the first, and then here in the second you multiply by 2t cosine. Okay, from here, multiply each side by sine of t squared. So another sine of t squared, so we get sine squared here. And if we have cosine times sine, we have another sine. Here, multiply by 2t cosine squared. So 2t cosine, and the other cosine was there, so we have cosine squared. And 2t cosine times sine. And this one is 0, so you don't really get anything here. How do you remove this part? Well, let's multiply -1 and change the sign. Change the sign and change the sign. Oops. And then add them up. This part will cancel each other out. And I'm going to get 2t, which is common. And then sine squared plus cosine squared u1 prime is equal to negative as a matter of fact, there was 4t to the 4th power, and I guess I didn't type everything correctly here. Okay, this is what I'm going to get. And then, let's see. This thing is equal to 1, right? So we get 2t times u1 prime is equal to this. Let's simplify. Divide by 2t. Then you get 2, and then you have cubed. And therefore, u2 we can obtain u2 by taking the integral of this thing, antiderivative of that thing. u1, excuse me. So this is the antiderivative computation I have to do. And here's another one I have to do. Once we do that, then we're going to get u1 and u2, and then multiply those two, y1 and y2. I'm going to get everything. Let's call this one as the conclusion of step 2. And in step 3, let's do those antiderivative computation.